Everybody, this is the news that we are waking up to for Thursday, May the 15th, 2025, day 1177 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. How do you do? I'm Peter Alexievich, and we will start with last night's missile and drone attack. It was just drones last night, 110. Now, between electronic warfare and active countermeasures and actually being shot down out of the sky, we saw about an 84% interception rate. So again, phenomenal shooting by the boys in the mobile air defense units and the Ukrainian armed forces. All eyes are on Istanbul today, and it's bullshit. The whole thing is bullshit. Putin calls for peace negotiations in Istanbul. Zelensky says, yes, let's go. I will meet you there. Zelensky's plane took off from Poland this morning. He's en route to Istanbul, even as I record this. Peskov says Putin will not be attending. Now, we knew that yesterday because Kirill Budanov, the head of the Military Intelligence Directorate of Ukraine, said as much. He said neither Putin nor any of his body doubles would be there. And they're not. The guy is afraid of Zelensky. There's actually some chatter that Putin wanted, are you ready for this? Putin wanted guarantees that Zelensky would not physically assault him at the meeting. Curiously enough, he did not receive those guarantees. Now, I'm going to play this for you, as disturbing as it is. Ready for this?
I actually said, why would he go if I'm not going? Because I wasn't going to go. I wasn't planning to go. I would go, but I wasn't planning to go. And I said, I don't think he's going to go if I don't go. And that turned out to be right. But we have people there. Marco, as you know, is doing a fantastic job. Marco's there, Secretary of State, and we have people there. But I didn't think it was possible for Putin to go if I'm not there. Jennifer?
Do you have updates, sir, on this?
I didn't think it was possible for Putin to go if I wasn't there. How this clown, this 300 pounds of dog shit and fake tan in a cheap suit, manages to make everything about him and at the same time reverse the reality of the situation. This creature of the Kremlin is desperate to sit down face to face with his boss, Vladimir Putin, and get new marching orders because the situation has spiraled out of his control. He can't control Ukraine. He can't intimidate Ukraine. He cannot coerce Ukraine. And so what does he say? Well, Putin wouldn't go if I wasn't going, when the exact opposite is true. If Putin had gone, Trump would have run there like the little lapdog that he is. Obscene, insane. Now, here's what we need to see more of, and we need to see a better response. The Estonians attempted to interdict one of the Shadow Fleet vessels. Regular followers of this channel are familiar with the Shadow Fleet. But just to be clear, to avoid sanctions on oil, the Russians have assembled, the estimates vary, but it's somewhere between 400 and 600 ships to carry everything from oil to refined oil products to grain and cargo. That is sanctioned. That's the key here. These flags, these ships fly under flags of convenience. Countries like Turks and Caicos, Liberia, etc. Even though they are Russian vessels and often Russian crude or Kazakh crude or Tajik crude, whatever. Now the thing about these vessels is Moscow doesn't want to spend any money. Every one of these vessels is an accident, an ecological disaster waiting to happen. We saw what happened with 3 of them when they broke up in a storm in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov last year, in a winter storm, spilling something like a third of the oil that was in the Exxon Valdez, one of the worst oil spills in history. So here you can see we're up in the Baltics. There's the Jaguar. That's the vessel that belongs to the Russian Shadow Fleet, or rather is suspected of belonging to the Russian Shadow Fleet. It's an oil tanker, and the Estonians tried to pull it over because it was flying without a flag. It was an unflagged vessel, which basically means it's a pirate ship. Now, the Estonian foreign minister, Margus Tashenkna, told reporters in Turkey, where he was ahead of the meeting of NATO foreign ministers, which just happens to be going on in Turkey right now at the same time as the Istanbul talks. He said the Russian Federation sent a fighter jet to check the situation, violating NATO territory for close to 1 minute. So in their desperate bid to preserve the income so that they can continue the genocide against Ukraine, the Russians are now sending fighter jets into NATO territory, and nobody's doing any fucking thing about it. Just taking it. It's a problem. He went on to say, we need to understand that Russia has officially tried and connected itself to the Russian Shadow Fleet. The Russian Federation is ready to protect the Shadow Fleet. The situation is really serious. And he's right. But it is time, especially in the Baltic Sea, NATO Lake, as some folks call it these days, that every one of these ships should be interdicted and seized. And NATO's got to step up. Moscow deploys fighter jets. We should be deploying our fighter jets as well. Enough of this nonsense. We're going to see one of these ships break up and millions of gallons of oil end up on the beaches of a NATO nation. And you know Russia's never going to pay for the cleanup. Give me a break. On the subject of the Shadow Fleet, it was thought that the European Union might hold off on sanctions until they saw the results of the talks in Istanbul. This is not the case. The EU has unveiled new sanctions against Russia, particularly targeting the Shadow Fleet. So far, the bloc has targeted 153 tankers, all of which have been denied access to EU ports and services. The new sanctions add another 189 vessels, bringing the total number up to just over 350. This is a great start, but it doesn't do any good if the laws for the navigation of, or the freedom of navigation on the high seas are not imposed upon these vessels. They should be interdicted, their cargo should be sold, and the ships themselves should be destroyed. Also blacklisted by the EU, 75 individuals and companies involved in Russia's military-industrial complex, and 30-plus firms that are suspected of supplying Moscow with dual-use goods. Dual-use goods are the kinds of things like advanced chipsets that could be used in, say, a radio or a microwave or a TV, but can also go into weapons. This is a problem. Now, the countries sanctioned, or rather the firms suspected of this illegal activity, and thus sanctioned by the EU, include firms in Kazakhstan, Serbia, Turkey, Uzbekistan, Vietnam, United Arab Emirates, and others. So again, it's a good move, but it's not a great move if these sanctions can't be enforced. And we need stronger enforcement mechanisms against these companies that violate sanctions. The EU, especially France, Germany, and the UK, are increasingly stepping up as it is clearer and clearer to everybody that the United States federal government has been subverted by a malign foreign actor in the person of Donald Jessica Trump. The French Minister of Foreign Affairs said, "We are adopting today a 17th package of sanctions, which will concern 200 Russian ships, Russian financial and international institutions, the actors of destabilization who conduct operations and cyber attacks. But we will have to go further because these massive sanctions haven't yet dissuaded Vladimir Putin from continuing his war of aggression against Ukraine. Going further means preparing devastating sanctions to suffocate the Russian economy." Amen. Alleluia. Thank you, Jesus. Or in this case, Jean. For his part, Macron, look at him there, so stone-faced and serious, like a gargoyle atop Notre Dame. He wants to extend the French nuclear umbrella to other European states. As well he should. Because I got to tell you, I have zero confidence right now that if Russia were to cross that line, that the United States would be there for anybody. Donald Trump isn't there for anybody. If you're not handing him $400 million gold-plated jets, he doesn't have time for you. If you don't have $5 million for a gold card citizenship, if you are not an apartheid-rich South African, he has no time for you. Macron, on this subject, he said that he's got some conditions that have to be met for this extension of the French nuclear umbrella over allied states in Europe. But numerous nations, including the Germans, have expressed support for this move. The Germans under Merz. Scholz was silent on the subject. To quote Macron, as quoted in DW, the German media outlet, "The Americans have the bombs on planes in Belgium, Germany, Italy, and Turkey," Macron said. "We are ready to open the discussions. I will define the framework in a very specific way in the weeks and months to come." Vive la France. Vive la France. Now this, I gotta tell you, I did that wrong, huh? All right, well, bear with me on this. So the Ukrainians, in the crucible of this war, rather than looking backward, turning to pack mules and donkeys to get to the front and pulling out of storage 70-year-old weapons, they continue to innovate. For the first time in history, we have seen an RPG, a rocket-propelled grenade launcher, attached to a simple drone. A simple drone. Now, this is the devastating consequence of that. Now, just think about what this means. It was just recently, the Ukrainians could only just drop these grenades from a drone. So you had to be directly over the target. But with the launcher mounted on a drone, the angle of inclination to the target can be just about anything within a 180-degree arc. Magnificent. I don't know how they solved the stabilization problem, but it appears to work, as this is a still from video footage released online of the drone in combat operations. So now I don't know if this is a prototype. I don't think that it's a capability yet, but it is a breakthrough it's yet another breakthrough in modern technological warfare by the Ukrainians. I mean, really amazing. Now here, this is a Shahed that came down, I believe, in Zaporizhia, if I'm not mistaken. This is one of the nasty ones. This is a Garon 2. These are jet-powered, and so they travel up to 600 kilometers an hour. Very hard to shoot down. Very hard to shoot down. The good news, of course, is that they're manufactured in the drone plant in Tatarstan, which, to the best of my knowledge, is still shuttered following a massive drone strike by the Ukrainians. So production of these, we believe, is currently suspended. Why this one is of particular interest is not because of the newness of it or its capabilities, but rather If I blow up that writing on the wing, what that says in Russia is there will be no peace, or there will be no ceasefire. The translators, depending on which one you use, give you a slightly different interpretation, but the message is clear. Russia is not interested in peace. Russia, by its very nature, is an imperialistic culture that is dependent upon its own success, for its own success, on the predation of its neighbors. This cannot be allowed. Just 10 days ago, this kills me. This shit kills me. And just like Trump, something that Trump and the Russian oligarchs have in common is they have no interest in what's true. They want to lie to your face, and you're a sucker that's going to believe them. This is video. I swear this is true. I'm not making this up. This is video released by the Russian MOD showing them kitting, providing equipment for a North Korean soldier fighting in Kursk. This is what the North Korean soldier gets. 10 days ago, just 10 days ago, the Russians, just 10 days ago, the Russians were denying the existence of North Korean soldier in Russia. 10 days later, after Vladimir Putin has admitted it, Peskov has admitted it, Lavrov has admitted it, what's his name? Medvedev has admitted it. We have video from them showing them kitting out a North Korean soldier. I mean, you can't make it up. It's so dumb. Like this. Let me tell you something. This soldier, his portrait is painted. He's an Azov battalion guy, and it is painted in multiple places around Kyiv. I've seen it before. This was a huge mural, which has now been painted over because the word got out that the Russians had stolen it and painted it on the side of a building for Victory Day Parade Day. A Ukrainian soldier from the Azov battalion. This is not even the craziest shit that Russian propaganda has done. You might recognize that jet right there or that helicopter right there. They're from Avatar. They're not even real. They're from a fucking movie. But they're on the Russian recruitment posters. How about this? Do you recognize this dedicated and decorated, heroic Russian soldier? Sure, it's Tyrion Lannister. Right? That's Peter Dinklage, the actor. I can't remember the name of that film. Everybody knows him from, Game of Thrones, right? But he did a beautiful little piece about life in a small town that is just a charming film to watch. Very moving. And he gave a tremendous performance in that as well. And in many other things. We've seen the guy in a lot of shit. But that's a real memorial for fallen Russian soldiers in Ukraine. And it uses not only Mr. Dinklage, but a number of identified porn stars. Like, you can't make it up. It's outrageous. All right. Just to close it out here. To demonstrate strength, Russia sends 2 Putins to Istanbul. They're both Chinese clones, by the way. The real Putin is still in his bunker, filing his nails and putting on his tinfoil hat to protect him from the big bad Ukrainians. Fucking cunt. Anyway, this is me. You know where to find me. If you pay by Apple, please stop. Apple takes 30% and makes me wait 75 days for any contributions to the Patreon. So please, avoid Apple Pay. All right, that's it for me. I will see you all on the live tonight. Take care.